You ever had a day that starts out perfect? Birds chirping, coffee just right, sun shining, and then it all goes downhill faster than you can blink. That was my Saturday. I'd just finished giving my $300,000 matte black Lamborghini Huracan a detailed wash. Every inch of that car reflected years of blood, sweat, and survival. To most people, it was just a fancy car. To me, it was a trophy, a reminder that I'd made it home, that I'd built something after the chaos of war. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of place where lawns looked cloned and every mailbox matched. The HOA here didn't just enforce rules, they lived by them. And at the center of it all was Karen, our neighborhood's self-appointed enforcer. Perfectly styled blonde bob, oversized sunglasses, clipboard always in hand, and that sharp, judgmental look that could stop traffic faster than a red light. I turned the key and let the Lamborghini's engine purr. The deep, thunderous roar echoed down the cul-de-sac like a beast waking up. That's when I heard it, the screech of sandals and the sound of fury marching across asphalt. Karen appeared, her face redder than a stop sign. "Excuse me," she shouted over the sound of the engine. "This is a peaceful neighborhood. We don't allow that kind of noise here." I shut off the engine, keeping my calm. "Just drying it off, ma'am. Not breaking any rules." She folded her arms tightly. "People like you think you can just buy respect with your loud toys." I smiled politely. "No, ma'am, I earned it." She glared, scribbled something on her clipboard, and stormed away. I should have known then. That roar wasn't just from my car. It was the sound of a storm brewing. After that first encounter, I figured it was over, just another nosy neighbor trying to feel important. But with Karen, things were never that simple. Within days, she turned what should have been harmless annoyance into a personal crusade. Every morning, I'd find a fresh HOA violation notice taped to my front door. Improper vehicle in driveway, excessive noise disturbance, unsightly property, all of them handwritten in the same sharp, looping letters. I could practically smell her perfume on the paper. I kept my cool. I'd been through far worse in my life. Actual firefights overseas, sleepless nights in hostile zones. A petty HOA battle, that was child's play. But still, something about her persistence started to eat at me. One afternoon, I caught her crouching near my driveway, snapping pictures of my car with her phone. When I asked what she was doing, she smiled like it was completely normal. "Just collecting evidence for the HOA," she said sweetly. "Evidence of what, exactly?" I asked. "That you don't belong here," she replied without hesitation. Those words hit differently. They weren't about noise or rules anymore. This was personal. That evening, I checked with a few neighbors, and they admitted she'd been complaining about me in the community group chat, calling me the show-off, the outsider, even the soldier with an attitude. I laughed it off in front of them, but inside, I knew this wasn't going to stop. Karen wasn't after justice. She was after control. I started double-checking my security cameras, locking my garage, and parking carefully. Something told me she was planning her next move, and when people like her want to prove a point, they always go too far. It happened on a quiet Tuesday morning, the kind of silence that feels almost too peaceful. I'd just come back from a jog, headphones still in, sweat dripping down my face. But when I turned the corner toward my driveway, my heart stopped cold. My Lamborghini Huracan, my dream car, my therapy after years of chaos, was unrecognizable. Deep, jagged scratches tore across the doors like someone had taken a knife to it. The windshield was shattered into a spiderweb of broken glass. And across the hood, in huge, sloppy red spray paint, were the words, "No show-offs allowed." For a second, I thought I was seeing things. Then the smell of spray paint hit me, sharp and fresh. My hands clenched on instinct, the same way they did back in the desert when adrenaline kicked in. But this wasn't a battlefield. This was my home, my peace. Neighbors started gathering, whispering behind their fences. A few had their phones out, recording. One of them muttered, "Man, that's brutal." Another said, "You should have seen how she looked at that car." I didn't need to ask who she was. I forced myself to breathe, to think. Reacting with rage never solved anything. Instead, I walked straight inside, powered up my computer, and pulled the footage from my security cameras. And there she was, Karen, in her robe, hair messy, carrying a can of red spray paint and a long metal rod. She wasn't sneaky about it either. She laughed as she worked, even posing for a second like she was proud of it. Seeing that changed something in me. It wasn't just vandalism anymore. It was disrespect, and I knew exactly how to deal with that, calmly, legally, and decisively. By the next morning, I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. Years in the military had taught me that emotion clouds judgment, but calmness wins wars. This wasn't a battlefield, but it was going to be handled with the same precision. I printed out screenshots from the security footage, tucked them into a folder, and walked straight to Karen's house. Her porch was decorated with perfect flower pots and a "Welcome Friends" sign that felt like a bad joke. I knocked firmly. When she opened the door, she already had that smug, holier-than-thou look on her face. "Oh, it's you," she said, rolling her eyes. "Come to apologize for waking everyone up with that noisy car again." Without a word, I pulled out my phone and played the footage. The sound of her own voice and laughter filled the air. Her fake smile froze as she saw herself smashing my windshield, spray painting my hood, and walking away like she'd just done a good deed. Her face went pale. That's not me," she stammered. I tilted my head slightly. "Karen, you're wearing the same robe and slippers. Even your garden lights match the video." She tried to shut the door, but I caught it gently with my foot. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "You destroyed private property worth more than most houses in this neighborhood. That's a felony." She blinked fast, trying to find her words. You wouldn't." "I already did," I interrupted. "The police have the footage. So does the HOA. You picked the wrong guy, Karen. I don't fight with fists anymore. I fight with facts." I handed her a copy of the evidence and walked away. Behind me, the door slammed, but it didn't matter. The battle was over, and justice had already begun. Within a week, the entire neighborhood was buzzing. Whispers spread faster than wildfire. The infamous Karen had finally been caught. The HOA called an emergency meeting, something they hadn't done in years. When I arrived, the room went silent. Karen sat in the corner, sunglasses hiding her eyes, pretending to read a paper as if nothing had happened. The HOA president played the footage I had provided. Gasps filled the room. The evidence was undeniable. Karen had vandalized my Lamborghini with deliberate malice. The same woman who had spent years writing up petty violations for others had just committed a major crime herself. The HOA voted unanimously to remove her from the board, fine her for property damage, and report her to the police. She tried to argue, claiming it was a misunderstanding, but no one believed her anymore. Her power was gone. Her reputation shattered beyond repair. A few days later, officers showed up at her door with a court summons. The same neighbors who once feared her now avoided even looking her way. The community felt lighter, freer, almost peaceful again. My Lamborghini was sent for repairs, fully covered by insurance thanks to the footage. When it rolled back into my driveway, freshly polished and flawless, it felt symbolic, like I'd rebuilt not just a car, but my sense of peace. One evening, as I stood admiring the car, a young neighbor came over. "Mr. Walker," he said, "you didn't yell or fight, but you still won." "That's pretty cool," I smiled. "That's the thing about strength, kid, real power doesn't need noise. It's calm, steady, and unshakable." Now, every time I pass Karen's empty house, I remember one truth. Respect is earned through character, not control.